And think about it, without martial arts, our ancestors would not be here. They protected themselves. We are alive because our ancestors protected themselves. And the word martial art doesn't mean violence at all.
No.
It's made up of a Chinese character, bu or wu in Chinese. It's made up of two weapons hitting each other, bang, with sparks. And right below those two weapons is the word for stop. So practicing martial art and stop. That's the meaning of martial art. To practice martial art so you don't cause violence.
Welcome everyone to another episode of A Black Belt Way of Life. I am your host, Master Joseph Lupo Jr. And on tonight's episode, I am joined by Sensei Kai Leung. Sir,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
The connection was made through a previous guest on this show, a very dear friend of mine and a dear friend of yours as well, Sensei Charles Jardines. So if you haven't caught that episode, please check it out. Sensei, you brought some really, really amazing things with you tonight. Tell me what's here on this table.
Okay. This is my first black belt. I started studying martial arts in the early 1960s.
Wow.
And in New York City, the predominant martial art instructors were Korean, American servicemen. And the martial arts that were taught back then was Korean karate, Goju-Ryu Karate, and Shotokan Karate.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started studying martial arts, I started with my older brother, but I was only 6 years old. So, my brother was much older than me. He didn't want me around, so he brought me to another school uptown. And I started in Korean karate. Back then, Korean karate, they don't use Taekwondo back then.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Taekwondo didn't exist yet. They didn't use it.
Sure.
So they used Tang Sudo, which means karate in Korean.
Mm-hmm.
So I started in Korean karate, and I earned this belt when I was 9 years old.
Wow. It's always a beautiful thing for me to look at old belts. Because I love the concept of, you could tell the hard work that goes into a belt because it turns white.
Yes.
It's a phenomenal concept, in my opinion. You become a black belt only for it to be turned white. The philosophy behind that is the black belt is just the beginning of this journey that we are on. A lot of, I want to say, American culture and everything, they see it as an end point. They see, I get my black belt. But it's just the beginning, and your belt is a prime example of it from what I'm seeing.
The reason why I brought this belt is because we start as a white belt, we practice until we become a white belt again.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you become black belt, you still practice.
Sure.
Or a lot of people nowadays, they get their black belt and they stop. That belt will never turn white.
Of course.
Because they stop practicing. So since I've been involved in martial arts my entire life, from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, I'm still doing. And this is not just, this is one example of my belt. I had many belts that turned white.
Of course. And
in the early days, we were taught to give your black belt to your favorite student or people that you think are worthy to carry your tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So my early black belts all got my black belts.
Wow.
Except I never gave out my first one.
That one's yours.
Because they wouldn't fit them anyway. It's too small. That's why I still have it.
Wow. With that being said, to our audience, make sure to check out our sponsor, Mr. Joseph Ferrone of Whitecurt Realty. This episode of A Black Belt Way of Life is brought to you by Mr. Joseph Ferrone of Weichert Realty. For all your real estate needs, both commercial and residential, don't hesitate to reach out to Mr. Joseph Ferrone. All his information is in the show notes. Also, check out the official apparel company of A Black Belt Way of Life, Best Martial Arts, Muto USA. For all your martial arts needs, check out all their info in our show notes. Sensei, so you brought up, you started the martial arts here at a very young age. Where did you immigrate from? So this for the audience who is not familiar with you, but in my opinion, most people are familiar with you. Where did you come from, sir?
I'm originally born in Hong Kong
Mm-hmm.
in the late 50s, and my family immigrated here in the early 60s. And my older brother was already practicing martial arts
In Hong Kong.
in Hong Kong. He was
Yes.
already a black belt in Goju-Ryu Karate,
Mm-hmm.
Japanese style karate. And throughout my entire life, he was my idol. I had many brothers. I have 6 brothers.
Oh wow, big
Okay,
family.
but the one that I admire is the one that's closest to me in age, even though he's like 11, 12 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
He was always fit, always exercising. And when I turned 6, I keep begging my parents if I can do what he does. So they asked my brother to teach me. As you know, a teenager
Mm-hmm.
have no patience with a little brother. So he taught me a little bit, but then he ended up bringing me someplace else. And that's how I got started. But I'm originally from Hong Kong.
Wow. So, basically you took away one of my questions, because I always like to bring up what was your inspiration to start martial arts? What was, I've had guests come on and they bring up Bruce Lee. I have guests come on and they bring up various movies. I had one guest come on and talk about Ninja Turtles. There's always an inspiration that leads us to the martial arts. It doesn't just happen by accident, in my honest opinion. Something has to make us want to do it. So you got your inspiration from your brother.
My older brother, and at that time, there weren't many heroes for Asian people in America.
Mm.
So my brother was my inspiration. Then came the 70s, Bruce Lee came out.
Of course.
In the 70s, mid 70s, I met my Japanese instructor, Miyazaki Sensei.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, they were playing a lot of martial art movies. And then it's a karate school, but they advertised also Kung Fu also.
Sure.
Because Kung Fu
sure.
became popular from the movies.
Of course.
So an influx of people coming,
Mm-hmm.
Studying. So just like in my earlier days when studying Korean karate, they use karate because no one ever heard of Taekwondo before.
Sure.
So same thing, they're using a term
that
universally accepted at that time.
That everyone was familiar with.
Yes.
I look at my father's old diplomas. It says Korean karate.
Yes.
On them, all his old diplomas.
Also, a lot of Korean diplomas use a lot of Chinese, Japanese writing, especially the names of very important documents. And then the lesser language is modern Korean.
Sure.
It's a combination of both.
So there's so much of an influence from all different parts of Asia in the martial arts.
Yes, they're all related.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look way back, when before Taekwondo became Taekwondo, it was Tong Sudo or Tang Sudo or Kong Sudo. Kong Sudo means empty hand, like karate now means empty hand. Tang Sudo means China hand, name of the Chinese dynasty, Tang dynasty. So Koreans not gonna speak in Japanese and say karate. They're gonna say Tang Sudo or Kong Sudo. So even Taekwondo, the name originally Tek Sudo or various combination of the name, but the earliest Taekwondo instructor, Lee Wan-guok, the founder of Chung Do Kwan, his instructor is Gijin Funakoshi. He studied in
Japanese.
Japan.
Yes.
So when he went to back to Korea, he is the highest authority in Tang Sudo
Mm.
or Tong Sudo or Kong Sudo. Even Wang Qi, the founder of the Mutokwan,
Yes.
he went to him to study for a little while to be recognized, you know, and standardize his art. So in at that time, all the Korean schools are called Kwan. How come Japanese schools don't all say Kwan? Only Shotokan say Shotokan.
Mm.
But there's Jito Kwan, Yumo Kwan, Chongmo Kwan,
Sure.
Muda Kwan. Why they call Kwan? Because originally they came from a Shotokan background.
Wow. Because there are so many similarities, obviously, in
Now
our patterns and
now
everything.
is very hard to
Yeah.
tell. But in the early days of Korean karate, all the major Kwans were doing Japanese forms.
Yes. And our stances and our
You know,
movements,
all the forms
100%.
were
Yes.
originally Shotokan.
And to me personally, I think it's a beautiful thing. I know some people, they're like, oh no, we have to be different. I don't believe in that. You know, it's all, when anybody walks into my school, and I'm sure it's happened to you as well, sir, you know, and you get the conversation of, you know, martial arts and what's better than this and what's, I don't fall into that conversation, because for me,
Art.
it's all beautiful. It's as long as it's taught with the main foundation and the main premise of respect, you know, all martial arts to me is beautiful. There's no one better than the other, you know, because it comes from the same philosophy.
Yes. And they all are related to each other.
Mm-hmm.
They take from each other.
Sure.
You know, the Japanese race, if you look at the DNA, is very close to Korean DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Northern Chinese. They all have similar DNA. They all related people. The language is also very similar. You cannot tell now, but the Korean language is more similar to Old Chinese, because in China, the Mandarin language that they speak now is only about 500 years old.
Mm-hmm.
During the Tang Dynasty, where, you know, everyone called Tang, you know, right? They spoke a different type of Chinese. It's similar to Cantonese, which is the language that I speak from Hong Kong. So even now, a lot of people, when they try to translate the old martial art texts, like in karate, we have a book called the Bubishi. They consider the Bible of karate.
Mm-hmm.
All the karate masters treasure this book. And then they try to translate it in modern Chinese, which is Mandarin. They can't do it because it's not spoken like that. The language is spoken in Old Chinese, which is similar to Cantonese. So even now, when you read old poems in Chinese, you have to read it in Old Chinese, which is similar to Cantonese.
Wow.
Korean language is similar to Cantonese.
It's all one family. It's all one family.
Like, for example, in Taekwondo, 준비,
Yes.
get ready.
Mm-hmm.
Cantonese, 준비.
Oh, wow.
It sound the same, right?
Wow. It is.
So the art, the language, the culture, they all interrelated.
Wow. I really hope the audience is taking notes on this, you know, because this is an amazing history lesson, even for myself. This is great. It's great to embrace the history of what we study and understand its origin, because it will only give us a greater appreciation of what we do and what we could project to our students. Because teaching the martial art is not just about kicking and punching. I tell people that's the easy part. That's the fun part. That's the easy part. It's understanding and knowing the history behind
and
philosophy behind it. It makes us better, not only better martial artists, but better people, you know, to understand. Now you brought up something I always love talking about. It's something I could relate to, because I always heard the stories from my father, who started in the early 70s. under my grandmaster Lee Moon-sang. He was his first student and black belt. And I want to hear from you, sir. Talk to us about the early days of martial arts, where it was very different than today, the way it is taught today. I brought this up to my last guest, Grandmaster Michelle Smith, how in the early 70s, and obviously you started in the 60s, martial arts schools weren't too many kids.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't too many
I was
kids.
a rarity.
Yeah.
Majority were adults.
Especially because you started so young.
I started very young.
I look at my father's original class photo.
Mostly adults.
It was adult men.
Yes, and no women.
In that picture, you could spot 2 women and maybe 2 or 3 little kids, and then, no exaggeration, sure, about 100 men. It was, talk to us a little bit about that time. And obviously, you starting as a child, you're training amongst grown men.
Yes.
I want to hear about that.
Well, because of my background, because I'm Asian, from Hong Kong, Chinese descent, we were taught very disciplined at home. So we are expected to behave a certain way.
Sure.
Even when you take a martial art class, we have to be very serious. The mentality before is very different than now. Even in Japan, I went to Japan, I saw the way the kids are. During the class, the kids act like adults. They train like adults. After class, they're running around just like children anywhere in the world. Same thing, I look back in the day, mostly men, mostly adults, very little children. Now I see mostly children.
Mostly children, sure.
Very little adults.
Mm-hmm.
Time change. The reason I believe is people want to learn something quickly. They don't want to spend the time in developing an art. They want something really quick. That's why kicking a bag, that's like a lot of schools, they just develop a system where you just kick the bag, punch the kick, and do different combinations, and that's the martial art. Back then, the martial arts were taught in form, in kata, in pumse, in hon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we store the fighting techniques that were passed down.
Sure.
The problem with modern martial art is a lot of the early martial arts the teacher did not teach the real meaning to the students. They just teach it as an exercise, a form just to get promoted to the next level. They didn't teach them how to use the form. But if you understand the meaning of the terms in the forms, the original meaning, different techniques are pronounced a certain way. If you understand the Japanese, Korean, Chinese language, you will understand what the heck you're talking about.
Sure.
Like, for example, in karate, we have a technique where you bring a hand to the side, right? Now, people say, oh, you blocked something, right? But then if you think about it, what are you doing? But the term is open your hand, open to the side. That's what it means.
Because you understand the meaning behind the term.
The meaning of the term. Open hand, open to the side. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the teacher don't tell you what you're doing. So if I do this and then why you do two? There's a reason.
Sure.
It wasn't taught to the students. Why we do blocks with 2 hands. And why you use the word block in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
If you block, you're stopping it. And then what? They can continue to hit you. There's more to a block than a block. It's just a term that was created later.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the techniques are taught with the wrong interpretation. The knowledge of self-defense was not passed down to everyone. It was held only to the very few.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why martial arts evolve and change and modify and and people guessing what you're doing and creating all these made up self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
Even modern karate competition, we do forms. And we have what we call bunkai, where two guys come, 2 or 3 guys come and they do their form, then they perform their techniques.
They show the
Self-defense
application of
yes,
the form.
You've seen that before,
Of
right?
course, yes.
But that is not the true meaning of the form. That's a made-up choreographed fight scene that you find in a movie.
Wow.
That's not the real meaning of those movements. So the modern martial artists see that and, oh, that's what karate is. Or that's what kung fu, like even modern wushu, modern Chinese martial art. All that demonstrating and flipping and all that stuff is made recently. The original self-defense was not like that. It's really close in-hand fighting. Okay, very much like jiu-jitsu, very much like judo, very much like in-close fighting.
Mm-hmm.
There's no time for this fancy stuff.
Sure.
That's all created for modern times. But names are only added to the martial art. Human beings have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a brain. You just give a name and you call what it is. If I wear a black uniform or wear a kung fu uniform and I do karate movements, or that's kung fu. Or if I kick high or it's taekwondo, whatever, I jump and do split kick or spinning kick or it's taekwondo. Even though it could be kung fu, could be karate, could be whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you wear a different type of uniform or you're this martial art or that martial art. Terms are added, uniforms are added, these modern styles were added, you know, modern times.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, all martial arts are the same. The same.
And that obviously was ingrained in you because you obviously from that generation you were taught a proper foundation, and it's up to you at the end of the day, the instructor, to carry that on moving forward. Of course, we have to. I believe we all have to adapt in a certain way, because there's an old saying, you adapt or you die, you adapt or you stay behind. But we can't lose the tradition at the end of the day, because that's what keeps us going.
Yes. But the problem, even back then, the instructors were not teaching everyone the same. They teach children like myself exercise martial arts. They didn't teach you how to really use what it was intended for. Only later you discover yourself by your senior instructors or senior people that will share with you their knowledge. A lot of things are actually not shared. Like, look at the Japanese martial arts, karate, for example, okay? The Okinawans taught the Japanese. The Japanese came to Okinawa and conquered Okinawa, okay? Now, if they conquer you, why will you teach them how to fight?
Sure.
Right? So you teach them a watered-down version of what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Japanese did not learn the real intention of the self-defense. When they went back to Japan, they developed their own fighting system. They combined jiu-jitsu, judo, other martial arts. So karate changed a little bit, right? Now, they did not teach everything to the Westerner, because America, defeated Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So you think they're going to teach them how to use what they learn or they discover? No. So even back in the old days in martial arts, survival is knowing how to fight, but not sharing everything with everyone. True martial arts. Nowadays, look at the Gracies. When they first start competing, nobody know how to fight on the ground. So they defeat everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they know how to fight on the ground. They start making videotapes how to fight on the ground. Look what happened. They start losing. Now, if you share your knowledge with the whole world know how you fight. And now they're not winning all the time.
They level the playing field.
Yeah, so if you have the atom bomb, you share with everyone else. What's so special about you?
There's nothing special about it anymore. Everyone has it.
So same thing right now, in North Korea, right? They developed the nuclear weapons. Now, people are afraid to mess with them, right?
Sure.
If they don't have that, they would just go in there and take it over. So martial art was not meant to share with everyone. Only commercialism that it changed.
Hmm. It's a very valid point. Very good point. And I completely understand it because I'm not I come from a dojang that was not commercialized at the end of the day. It doesn't have, 10, 15 branch locations, just one.
Nothing
You know?
wrong with having branches. Nothing wrong with expanding. But it's
But it has to be
always
done the right way.
yes, and you have to share the true meaning of the martial arts to your students, or else the art will disappear.
Sure.
There's no secrets in martial arts,
Mhm.
But if you don't share, the art will die. There's many martial arts that are no longer around because they did not share.
Mhm. Now, you brought up in your martial arts journey, Sensei Miyazaki. Was he someone that you were closest to in your journey that you're on now as continuing a martial artist?
Yes. Uh, I met him. I met him many times in tournaments. I used to go to the All American Henry Cho,
The Felt Forum.
and then he competed at the Universal Open.
Yes.
I met him many times, and I visited him with two of my best friends. We practiced together. They were very famous fighters, Shelton Wilkins and Abdul Matakabir. They're
Okay.
very famous fighters in New York area. And he took us out to dinner, lunch. And then at that time, I moved from Manhattan to Queens. And I live in Whitestone, and his school is in Flushing.
Yes.
So
Northern
Northern
Boulevard. Because
Boulevard
I'm
and
from
Main Street.
Flushing.
Yes.
I remember I'm from Flushing.
hmm So, and then I started visiting him. And also at that time, I used to be a school teacher. I used to come back from working as a teacher. And then he can tell when I'm at a bad day or good day.
Mhm.
So why don't you just come and practice? So I start going. And next thing you know, he treated me and welcomed me into his school. And then I just closed my school and I told my guys to come because I want to go over there. And then he offered me, if you don't mind, why don't you help me teach here? So I became his assistant instructor.
Wow.
And I started competing in the late 70s and 80s because of him. He was heavily into competition.
Mm-hmm.
So I tag along and I went also. And I enjoy winning. I enjoy decorating my school with trophies.
I could tell by the smile on your face. I see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I enjoy, and for decoration, not because to become famous or anything. I just want to decorate my school.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be somebody instead of nobody. There's, thousands of people study martial arts.
Sure.
So I want to be somebody, just to make a little name for myself, and decorate my school. And all these years, I try to be loyal to my sensei, my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
When he passed away, before he passed away, he told me, do your best to continue the tradition. Help me, keep the school going. And so I did. I tried my best. He's not here anymore, but I'm doing my best I can to represent him.
Of course. Someone.
Even myself, my school emblem is actually, I don't have this one, but I always have him in my heart. This is family crest. In Japan, each family, they belong to a samurai clan. His family belonged to this family, this samurai clan, that wear this symbol. So you will notice that my emblem does not have any writing on it, right? I don't have to put down Miyazaki or Shotokan or karate or taekwondo or anything.
Mhm.
Just a symbol. That's all I need to represent him. Even to this day, I represent him. Nothing for me. My students compete all over the world. They do well, they do so, whatever. But they all, yes, they come from my school, but they all represent him too, keeping his tradition alive. So to me, it means a lot to me. When I went to Japan to visit him when he was still alive, one of his most treasured items is a team jacket like this I gave him. He was wearing it.
Wow.
And then when I went visit him, he was waiting for me. He was living in a nursing home in his life. He was in a wheelchair. When I visited him, he got off the wheelchair and stood up and waited for me to come to visit him. And that touched me, you know. I went there with my late wife. My wife passed away 6
sorry,
years
sir.
ago. But I went with my wife and I brought him his favorite dessert. It's called kurimanju. It's a chestnut pastry. And I gave it to him and he was so happy. He shared with the entire nursing home.
Wow.
That touched me. And then he was so proud because he know that I used to be a school teacher, that I can cut paper and make things out of paper, anything out of paper. So when they got together, by the way, his nursing home, majority of the patients are all women. He's like the Casanova, mostly women. So when they had the arts and crafts, he said, "Oh, watch my student, watch what he can do." He was so proud of me. So I made all these different animals and different creatures. I gave it to all these elderly ladies, and that made my day.
Wow.
But the saddest part is when I left, his face turned. I'm leaving. My wife and me, we had to leave because we took a taxi over there to the nursing home. We gotta get our taxi to go back to the hotel. And he looked sad. And that's the last time I saw him when he was alive. And when he passed away during COVID, we weren't allowed to go to Japan to his funeral. So, and then a few years ago, I went with Sensei Charles to Japan because my sensei's school had a 80th anniversary celebration. So they invited us. So that's a good opportunity for me to visit my sensei.
Wow.
So I visited his family, I visited his grave, and I bow, I show my respect to him. And I was wearing the same thing. I was wearing a jacket with his emblem. And then throughout the cemetery, this emblem is everywhere. Because that cemetery, a lot of people belong to that family, that samurai clan. So I feel good. I represent him. Even though he's not here, I'm doing the best I can and to pass down the tradition. Even my wife, before she passed, she told me, don't stop teaching. A lot of people depending on you. So because of that, I cannot stop teaching. I'm a lifetime martial art instructor. I don't say I teach karate, I teach martial arts because martial art is everything. So when I speak to someone with different styles, a taekwondo stylist, a kung fu stylist, a different style in karate, I have to know as much as them because I'm a lifetime martial artist. The more I know, the more I grow because martial art is a lifetime endeavor.
Sure. We're forever students.
Forever student.
Forever students.
And also, there's no teacher student. My student is my teacher also.
Of course.
I learned from every person that I have taught. They taught me to be a better instructor. I made many mistakes in my life teaching. One time I was teaching, I'm teaching how to kick. I tell the lady to hold the shield. I kick the shield. I drop the lady. How embarrassing is that,
Of course.
I learned from my mistake. So teaching is a two-way street.
Yes. Yes. No, it's you bring up some truly inspiring and amazing topic, Sensei. I right now I'm a student. I'll be very honest
I'm
with
a
you.
student. I am a student of your student. I'm your student too. I'm learning
it,
from you. It's not a
it's
one-way street.
of
You learn from each
course,
other.
of course, and and how you brought up Sensei Miyazaki. This is one thing I tell people that makes martial artists special. The bond that is created through martial arts, through disciplined, training, however you want to put it, blood, sweat, and tears, that we share on that training floor. It's something that a lot of people don't understand, but it's almost like how I said, use the word before, a mission. It's our mission to show this to the world, to teach everyone how beautiful the martial arts can be.
Yes, and your teacher or your mentor is part of your life. I learned as much as off the mat as I am on the mat with him.
Of course.
We going out to eat, we chit chat,
Yes.
we joke around. So many things we went through. We learn from each other. In fact, back in the late 70s and early 80s, he was competing, I was competing. Every Friday night after we finished teaching, we help each other. He does his form. He asks me my opinion. And then I do my form, and then he tell me what he thinks. So we help each other, improve each other. In fact, at that time, we were competing in open tournaments where there's multiple divisions.
Yes.
I taught Miyazaki Sensei, believe it or not, choreo.
Oh my goodness.
He competed with choreo in the U.S. Open in Florida.
Wow.
He beat all the Korean stylists.
For the audience that doesn't know,
first place.
Yes, choreo is the first dan black belt form.
And to give you a little idea, the background choreo, I learned choreo from Richard Chun, Master Richard Chun. He just learned the form. I was one of the very first to learn that form.
Oh, wow.
I competed in open tournament. I competed in a lot of karate tournaments doing choreo. No one ever seen that before back then.
Sure.
And I did very well.
Wow.
So I competed with Korean stylists. At that time, I already converted to Shotokan Karate, and I still beat the Korean stylists.
Wow.
Because I have good instructors.
Good foundation.
Yeah, good foundation, good exposure. If you look at my old pictures, you can tell that my kicks look like Taekwondo, right? Because I kick very high, and
especially your side kick,
front kick, whatever. But it's not the name, it's just that we did a lot of kicking, that's all. My instructor's side kick is incredible. He kicks as good as the best Korean kicker.
I never had the pleasure of obviously seeing him compete. I wasn't even born yet.
But there are videos.
But I saw a video, and I actually brought this up to one of the producers the other day. It's a very grainy video that is on the internet, and if you blink, you miss the kick. So fast. I mean, it's incredible. Like, I'm watching this video, and I'll be honest, sir, I must have rewinded it like, I don't, maybe like
his
10,
side
50,
kick
it was
is
so
like
fast.
It's like shooting a shotgun.
Yes.
Because he chamber his leg like that. Like the Taekwondo fighter now.
And believe it or not, I still teach the side kick like that.
That's the way it should be done. I know Herb Perez is complaining about the modern Taekwondo rules. I know, I don't blame him. He's from the old school. It become tag, front leg kicking.
Yes.
Not like before power kicking from the rear. All martial arts evolved because of the sport. But if you get kicked by that kick, you get hurt.
Of course. That's not tag.
I remember I was at a tournament the Tong Dojo tournament with George Caulfield. Sensei Miyazaki fought with those fighters. He won that division. He chased the fighter with a sidekick. Like he literally chased the guy with a sidekick. You ever heard
If he's chasing him, that means the other guy's running away.
Yes, yes.
Running
And
away from a kick.
his foot is like a brick.
Wow.
His legs are very thick.
Mm-hmm.
He's the same height as me, but he's very muscular. Legs are very muscular. Foot is very muscular. He's not the average martial artist. He's very special, and that's why I want to be like him. You know, when I compete, I try to kick like him. You know,
Wow.
believe it or not, I taught Miyazaki Sensei some of the spinning kicks. You know, because back then they didn't do many spinning kicks,
Mm-hmm.
but we were doing spinning kicks. But we enjoy practicing with each other. We learn from each other.
Yes.
I learn a lot from him, and I share what I know. You know, he asked me.
Mm.
I didn't offer to teach him. He asked me, how do you do this? How do you do that? I want to compete in a tournament in Florida. Can you show me that form you do? Okay, I told him.
And you know, you bringing that up is such a show of respect. You know, such an esteemed, you know, sensei, such an esteemed competitor, instructor, asking you for advice. That must have felt so special.
He gave me his first place trophy.
Wow.
Because I told him the form.
Wow.
And back then, I was also practicing another style called Goju Karate. My brother is a Goju stylist, so I practiced with him too. And my instructor wanted to learn Goju also. So we practiced Goju Kata together. Goju form. You know, that's the art that I right now, as I got older, I appreciate that style more as an older person. Because as you get older, some of these athletic styles are not healthy. You see a lot of injuries in the elderly community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we want to practice martial arts where we can practice until we become elderly.
Right.
To be healthy. Not practice something you get hurt.
Of course.
I don't want so many hip replacement, knee replacement, hand replacement, elbow replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Practice something that is natural. But even though I'm still very loyal to my instructor, but my other instructor is my brother, so I'm loyal to him too. So I practice both.
Both.
But my students right now, I focus mostly on Shotokan Karate because out of respect for my instructor.
Now, when you bring up your students and you bring up, you know, your extensive competition background, many champions have come through your school over the years. Would you mind sharing with the audience about that? How, and also, you know, the feeling behind creating champions has to be a very fulfilling, you know, feeling as an instructor.
Actually, creating champions is not my joy.
Really?
I didn't teach martial arts to create champions. I taught martial arts because I like to teach and helping people. You know, I created many well-known martial artists came out of my school.
Yes.
But I'm more proud teaching an average person that's still practicing today. That been with me 50 years or more. You know? The school I have now, I have people that practice with me since we opened that school.
Wow.
That's more fulfilling than someone who became a champion. And once they become a champion, win all these trophies, and then they stop practicing. Okay? I'm also very open with my students. I don't limit them on any martial art training. Many of my black belts are also Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I have nothing wrong with that. In fact, my student, Doug Polinovich, he's a world champion in BJJ. And I'm very proud of him. Last month, I went to watch his son fight, mixed martial art fight. I was so proud of him. he used to be a little baby crawling in my school.
Wow.
He submitted his fighter first few minutes to fight. And then when he saw me, I went to see him fight. He was so happy, he wanted to take a picture with me
Of course.
because I was his father's teacher, you know? But I'm proud of my students no matter what they do. Not just martial arts,
Mm-hmm.
in everything in their life.
Life.
I have students that win Academy Award. The movie 12 Years a Slave is written by John Ripley. He's my student.
Oh, wow.
I have a student named Darcy Proper. She won like a few Grammy Awards composing music, And I met many, many famous people that came out of my school. Be surprised so many people meet each other in a martial arts school.
Yes. Yes. I mean,
Gregory Hines was at Richard Chun School.
wow.
Many, many famous people, So martial arts really unite people.
So this is where we get the term, and I've heard it since I was obviously very young, a champion of life.
Yeah. I have a student right now, the Grammy-nominated artist. He toured with Foreigner. He played the cello.
Mm-hmm.
He traveled all over the world, and we meet all these people through martial arts. Even my nephew, he's an actor. You probably seen him in movies. His name is Ken Leung, and he's in, if you saw Star Wars, he was in The Force Awakens.
Oh,
he
wow.
starred with Carrie Fisher. He was with Carrie Fisher. He was the Admiral.
I think I need to start watching. I'm not a big Star Wars person. I know the producer of this show
Have you seen Lost?
is going to get upset for me saying this, but I think I need to start watching it.
Have you seen the TV show Lost?
I haven't, actually.
I
I got to watch that. I got to put that on my list now.
Have you seen Industry? HBO?
No, sir.
Have you seen Avatar?
I have seen Avatar.
But the live version.
No, sir.
My nephew played General Chow
Oh, wow.
in Avatar. But you know what? Did you see Rush Hour, the very first one?
Yes.
Jackie Chan?
Yes.
You know the blonde guy who chased Jackie Chan with the sledgehammer?
Okay.
The henchman?
Okay.
That's my nephew.
That's it. Oh, my God.
And to prepare him for the movie, he practiced karate with me to yellow belt. He doesn't know martial arts. He's an actor. Because of martial arts, we meet many well-known people. Just what happened, my nephew became, thank God he's working. I'm proud of him. How many starving actors are there? A lot, right?
Sure.
So I'm happy he's still active. I see students that do well, and I'm very happy. I hear stories of my student, John Ripley in California. He's a big shot screenwriter in Hollywood. And one day he bumped into one of my students in Hollywood. He's driving a Ferrari on a stop sign. And then my student say to him, "Hey, John," and then they chit-chat. And say hi to Sensei for me. He still remember me. He's a big shot,
Wow.
big name guy, and he still remember me. That what makes me happy about martial arts.
Because even with all these, accolades people have, and the successes they've had, once we step on the floor, we're all the same.
Yeah.
We're all the same.
So going back to champions, yes, I have many champions. I many people represent the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of them all, but that's not what makes me happy. Just what happens, they do well in the martial art community. I'm more proud with the people that's still practicing until they cannot walk, and they're still practicing. I have a student right now, is up in the 70s. He enjoyed coming to class more than ever. Still coming. And for me, that makes me very happy. That's more important.
Wow. Wow, some beautiful things, sir. Oh, what an amazing life. Now,
Martial art is a special activity that we do. And think about it, without martial arts, our ancestors would not be here. They protected themselves. That's
mhm,
why our ancestors protected themselves. That's why we're here. We are alive because our ancestors protected themselves.
mhm.
So it's very important in modern society to study some form of martial art, self-protection. And the word martial art doesn't mean violence at all.
No.
It's made up of a word, a Chinese character, bu or wu in Chinese, or mo in Cantonese. It's made up of two weapons hitting each other, bang, with sparks. And right below those two weapons is the word for stop. So practicing martial art and stop. That's the meaning of martial art. To practice martial arts so you don't cause violence. That's the true meaning of martial arts.
Mhm. Wow, some amazing, amazing stuff, sir. And
If you
it,
understand, if you
yeah.
understand the language and the culture and the philosophy, you will enjoy martial arts more than just kicking punching.
Mhm.
Kicking punching, only you can do that when you're young.
It can only last so long.
Get older, there's more to it than kicking punching. I may not jump as high, I may not kick as high, I may not punch as hard, but at least I know how to hit you, or where to hit you, or how to hit you, right? That's more important than just using athletic skills. That's only good when you're young.
Mhm. It's the philosophy behind everything
Yeah.
that we do, and you brought up, I see on this table here, you started off the episode with the belt. Sensei, talk to us about, because these all, as you've said, are very, very special to you. Can you please? I don't even want to touch anything. Please, can
You
you
can touch it.
talk to me about this right here? What is that
I brought
for our
this.
audience?
I brought this because it means a lot to me, because this is called kama.
Mhm.
Kama means sickle. My instructor, in the late 70s, early 80s, he used to compete with this weapon. And at one tournament, this is his sickle. So at one tournament, he was competing and he's swinging this around with a rope. And one thing, he just did one twirls, like Bruce Lee, but with a light blade.
Wow.
That blade, you can cut through anything. So he just cut himself, just nicked himself a little bit, but he stopped bleeding like crazy.
Oh, wow.
And blood all over his uniform. And people try to stop him, and he don't want to stop. He completed his form. So later on, a few years later, he started giving me stuff. He said, "Oh, hey, this is for you. Keep it in a safe place." I said, "So that's for me. That's very special.
You don't mind if I touch it?
You can touch it, just don't cut yourself. You can give yourself a haircut."
We got the same barber,
Yes,
sir.
yes.
Is that what?
No, that's I don't know what that is. It came like that.
Wow.
I don't think that's his blood. They cleaned it. But it's a real kama or sickle.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I treasure that. I also have other weapons and a lot of other apparatus that I have. I have a geta, an iron shoe that you wear, a slipper that you wear when you develop your legs. He gave me that too. I still have it. And, I don't use it because it's for memories,
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of things of his. And I promise him I will never sell it or anything. I keep it for his memory. Nothing for money, Everything is kept for memories.
The sentiment always means,
Yeah.
you can't put any monetary value on something like
Yeah.
this. There's no money value.
I'm a herder in martial arts. I have so many stuff that I should have thrown away, but I don't. I have many old uniforms and many old stuff. I collect black belt, karate illustrated, inside kung fu,
Mhm.
fighting star magazine, have boxes and boxes and boxes of them. I never read them. They're turning yellow. It's taking up like half my storage place in my school.
Yeah.
But I still have them. They're memories.
And the memories make you feel good. It makes
Yeah.
you feel
But I have a
special.
lot of stuff like that. A lot of old uniforms. A lot of I have a uniform where my late father wrote the name of our organization in the back with his pen. My father was a very famous calligrapher,
Oh wow.
so his writing is very special. So I kept that, and my father, when people get married or special event, they ask him to write the invitation,
Mm-hmm.
because his writing is very unique, very special. It's like beauty, beautiful,
Wow.
very famous. So I kept that. I have that. I'm a herder of martial arts stuff. It's
But
like if I got rid of all that stuff, I would have a lot more space. But I keep all this stuff for memories.
because it's all special and it has that significant meaning to you, and this lifelong journey you've been on that you continue to go on. And this leads me to a very, very important question I have for you. With everything that you've accomplished and that you continue to accomplish, sir, and I could see, your facial expression and your emotion when you talk about Sensei Miyazaki. If he were here today, what would he be most proud of you for?
I don't know, but I do know that he's proud what I have accomplished in representing him. He know that I am not doing all this for myself. I never did this for myself. I did this because to represent someone who given me something that I can never repay him. I can never. I owe my life. He gave me opportunity to teach in his school, and he opened up a branch in Astoria because of me. And I try my best to keep his legacy alive. That's all I can do. And I just hope in heaven he's proud of me. Because I know he is. When he was alive, he talked to me and stuff. And and I'm still trying my best. As long as I'm able, I won't stop teaching.
Wow, sir, very, very touching. For me, that's something very touching to hear because and my students know every day I open up my dojang, I always open it up. I look at my father's picture on the wall and I say to myself that every day I'm going to make him proud. I still
That's very
say,
important.
and that's my motivation to teach every single day. You know,
And I'm still teaching.
of course.
I'm in my late 60s, and
You look
I
good,
I
sir. You
and
look good.
I enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah. We have to enjoy what we're doing at the end of the
Yeah.
day, sure.
And also I worry when I'm late, to the school. I worry people waiting for me. I always have to be an example.
Mm-hmm.
I never smoke, never drink, I never womanize, I never curse, I never do anything like that, because someone can see you and they will change their impression of you.
We have to lead by example.
Yeah,
That's the quote on my
yeah,
wall.
yeah.
When you walk in, we lead by example.
And my instructor is very, does a lot of practical jokes with me. He will spike my soft drinks and try to make me drink. But when they give me something like that, I always sniff, before I touch it. I don't trust them.
Wow.
But they're joking around, but
Of course, of course.
but he does that.
Wow.
Yeah.
But sir, I cannot thank you enough.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much.
having me.
Thank you so much for the audience that is tuning in today. How can they find out more about you? Where is your school located? How could they find you?
Well, I'm in Astoria, uh, between Broadway and 34th Avenue on Steinway. I've been in Astoria for 43 years,
Wow.
and I'm trying my best to keep going. That's all.
Beautiful.
I don't advertise nothing. I just word of mouth,
Mhm.
and students recommend students. That's it.
Beautiful, sir. But thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. In closing, make sure to check out the show notes. Also, a shout out to our sponsor, Joseph Ferrone of Whitecurt Realty, to our official apparel company, Best Martial Arts, Muto USA. Make sure to follow us, subscribe. Wherever you consume your podcast, check us out. In parting, always remember the words my father said. Your belt is worn around your heart, never your waist. A Black Belt Way of Life was produced by Press Record Studios.